I was told that I had 2 screens and one would have my time on it. So if I am going long, then cut me off, because I know you guys have planes to catch and things like that. So welcome. You guys had 2 or 3 days, depending on which part of the conversation and conference you were part of. I'm here to talk about gamification. How many of you know what that term means and you've heard it a lot? Okay, how many of you never heard that term before or just don't really know what it means? Oh, good, good, good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into some of the theory behind why this word exists and what it means and why gamification works to drive real business value. And then we're going to talk about some real-world examples, so some people who are using it in the enterprise to achieve a lot of the things we talked about this week. And I just thought it was interesting. I was looking back through this program, and engagement, collaboration, retention can be improved, ways to move beyond measuring employee engagement and start improving it. Boeing talking about the people are at the center and that you can't hyper-focus on technology. You need to get grassroots involvement. Everything we just heard from Sony, totally relevant. So there was another piece from the gentleman, hold on, I have my notes. I love how you guys let us write notes in here. Oh, moving beyond the survey. How do you take inputs from personally expressed inputs and watch what people are doing and actually get verification that that's, yeah, you may think you feel that way, but do you really? Is your behavior corroborating the story that you're putting forth? And then Mark and Dan, I loved this, in engagement and enablement. So we have this drive engagement and performance, but I really think engagement for us in our business model, which spans both consumer and enterprise, is focused on a more broad swath. It's are people doing the stuff you want them to do? And then what are the things you put in place, the tactics, the techniques, the mechanisms, the motivational components that get them there? So that's my recap. I just thought it was interesting that everything was in alignment with what I'm about to talk about. So nothing should be surprising or new or different. This is not working. There's another one here. They've secretly switched one device with another. All right, so let's talk about gamification. The challenges you guys are facing are pretty consistent. As I said, everyone here this week has been talking about the same things. Everyone's pointing in the right direction. You guys are purchasing tools and technologies. You're creating processes and systems. You're fostering conversations so that you can enable a workforce to be a differentiator for you. Your organization, your enterprise will be successful if people are the best that people can be. And we all go to work in the morning wanting to be our best, or at least we graduate wanting to be our best, or we are born wanting to be our best. Somewhere along the line, the realities of the world can kind of get in our way. So we see gamification, we see all of these tools and techniques as an opportunity to allow the employee to be the best that they can be, to give them the tools they need to be successful. So whether we're talking about adoption or onboarding, collaboration, retention, all of that, they're important for your company to be a success. They're important for an individual to be successful. And the most important components when we look at the employee motivation piece, the most important components are adoption and ongoing utilization. So beyond software functionality, organizational change management, all of the other things, even the technology that you choose. It can be good technology, but if no one uses it, then how good is it really? And so I want to focus today on those 2 elements at the front end of our presentation, and then looking at initial adoption and then ongoing utilization and success. So if people don't adopt, then obviously you won't be successful, and then if they don't use it, you won't be successful either. And you can't really leave it to chance because people are very, very predictably irrational. I'm going to talk about a gentleman named Dan Ariely in a little bit, and he's at Duke University. He's a behavioral economist who talks a lot about the irrational nature. We are not rational actors. Economists believe that we are all rational and we make decisions based on facts and inputs, but in reality there's a lot of emotional, chemical stuff that goes on in the human brain that prevents us from being very rational at all times. So if you leave it to chance that people are just going to love your new tool and use it, then you're not necessarily going to be successful. And as the previous folks stated, change is a given, and people are terrified of change at one end of the spectrum and then just don't really like change at the other end of the spectrum. And so you need to help them adopt these tools that will be in their best interest, help them realize that these will be in their best interest. And so you need to motivate them. And there are 5 keys to motivation, and I'm going to focus in on these. These are the reason why the term gamification exists. These are the root of why people are gamifying things, and their autonomy, mastery, and relatedness, and their progress and purpose. So self-determination theory states that we want to be the masters of our own destiny, and Professors Deci and Ryan do a lot of talking about that. There'll be a lot of tools at the end of this talk, so if you want to research further any of the stuff that I'm bringing up or any of the people that I've mentioned, you can do so. But Mark Twain said that work is when you are obligated to do something, and play is when you are not. So it really isn't about the thing itself, it's about how that thing is framed. This is an anecdote you guys are probably familiar with, the Tom Sawyer whitewashing the fence. So his aunt says, go wash the fence. He says, I want to go play. She says, no, whitewash the fence. Tom sees some friends walk by. He's like, hey guys, look how lucky I am. Wish you could whitewash the fence. And as we know, he convinces them that actually this isn't work, it's play, it's really desirable. So he's reframing the conversation. He's reframing this task, this drudgery, to look like fun. And so when we talk about gamification, some people say, well, you know what? There's work to get done. I already am doing more with less, or doing less with more, or whatever's ending up happening, but people are telling me I need to do more. I don't have as many resources. I need people to step it up. We can't distract them. We can't put something in their way that's going to slow them down. And gamification isn't saying distract them. It's saying take the thing they're doing and get them to viscerally want to do it in a way they don't necessarily today. Mastery, there's a wonderful dopamine response that happens in the brain. This feeling of flow. I don't know if any of you are skiers, but you pick the right trail, it's a perfect powder day, everything's aligning. It's like, it's just challenging enough that you're pushing your edge, but it's not so hard that you're getting hurt or you're scared of getting hurt. If you play sports, sometimes you read, you lose yourself, you get into this flow, this zone. And that's another piece of motivation. People are motivated when they get into this state because there is an actual chemical in their brain that says yay. And that is dopamine. Relatedness, we're all social. There's a reason why we come to conferences and we interact. It's because we want to understand what other people in our industry are doing. We want to understand other people like me. What are they seeing as success? In an organization, I don't want to live in a silo. I want to understand how I measure up. I want to be given a point of reference for success. And so it's important, if you're going to motivate an employee workforce, that you give them the opportunity to be social in whatever way is relevant in your organization. Here's Daniel Ariely, the gentleman I mentioned earlier. Dan's awesome, predictably irrational. Read the book if you haven't, if you're at all interested in this stuff. He does a lot of research around why. Why does this work? And why does purpose motivate people so intensely? And there are 2 anecdotes I'll provide. One is there's an investment banker, and he's part of this big deal. And he works all weekend because the deal's supposed to close on Monday, and he has to get all of this stuff done. And so on Monday morning, he walks in, he's feeling really proud, he presents his work to his boss, and his boss says, oh my God, this is great, what amazing work. Hey everybody, look at what great work Bill did. Sorry, the deal's been canceled, in the trash, doesn't matter. So now his work is for naught. And Bill expressed his deep displeasure, and he just said, I feel like there was no purpose, there's no reason, I did it for nothing. And I don't know how often you guys have employees who are working on tasks, a project gets canceled, things get shifted. How do we start to take into account that the purpose of a project is almost as important as what the project is? The other anecdote, and this is why there are little Lego monsters there, robots. He ran an experiment. There were 2 groups. The first group, the first group and the second group had identical scenarios. People came in as part of a test. They were paid to build robots with Legos or whatever pieces, plastic pieces. And you were paid, the more robots you made, the more you got paid. And the only difference between the 2 groups is that in group A, when you finished your robot, it was placed on a shelf, and you could look at it as you made your other robots. And in group B, the robot, as you finished it, was handed to a coordinator organizer, and they dismantled it while you built your next robot. And I don't know if that echoes some of the things we heard from earlier speakers today, but I can see analogous situations in the workplace. And so that's a hyperbolic example, but when it's your project and it's your work, and it's your purpose, we need to keep that front and center if we want to motivate as well. Progress. I love this lady. She's been researching effective employee motivation for over 15 years. She's a director of research at Harvard, Teresa Amabile, and we're all very familiar with LinkedIn profiles, I'm sure, in this room, and the progress bar. How do I get my progress bar to 100%? It's always sitting there as a reminder that there's something else for me to do. And so in the case of LinkedIn, perhaps it's less of a helpful tool, although in my early days of LinkedIn, I think it was. Now that I'm sitting there on the 95 mark, maybe not so much. But the idea of progress, what she did is she said, I'm going to do 2 experiments. I'm going to, number one, I'm going to ask employers what they think the most effective motivator is for employees. And I'm going to, at the same time, run a study. I'm going to analyze people's journals. Over 150 people's journals, and see what people actually find motivating. So I'm going to use the anecdotal evidence that they've written about in their most personal moments. And all of the employers said it was compensation and it was recognition. And by far, all of the employee journals uncovered that, in fact, it was progress. It didn't matter what the task was. It didn't matter how big or how small. It didn't matter how short or how long. All the employees wanted was a sense of progress. They wanted visibility and transparency. They wanted to be able to see what it was that they were working on and how it was moving to a state of conclusion, how they were reaching their goals. So those are the core components of motivation, and gamification really is about motivation. It's using the tactics, techniques, the things that make games fun, compelling, enjoyable, sometimes addictive, but always moving forward in a very clear feedback loop. It's those motivating factors that live at the nexus or the heart of games as well. So we're not saying we're building games. Nobody wants to build games. Believe me, 5 years of trying to convince people we're not game builders. We are people transformers. We are motivators. Some people might call it loyalty. Some people might call it recognition and reward. The term has been around forever. But in this context, we want to motivate high-value activity and loyalty. And you've been gamified already, kids. If you've ever been part of any sport that has a point system, karate, belts in karate, understanding where you are in a group, what level of mastery you've attained. Six Sigma, similar kind of scenario. Badges, Boy Scouts, military medals, visual indicators that we've achieved something and that we're moving forward and we're making progress, things, assets that we can hold on to and hold up. Digital loyalty programs are a great example of gamification going on forever. We all had to fly here, or most of us, some of us, I had to. United. Oh, really? Really, United? Really? Yeah, I'm making the decision, which airline do I fly? And it's United. I don't want to fly United. Ugh. So on average, we're all part of 17 loyalty programs. And this is a good example, Starbucks, I think, because what they're doing is they're saying, we know you're going to drink your coffee. And you want to drink your coffee, and you're going to probably come to Starbucks because there's one in the hotel lobby, there's one across the street, there's one around the corner, dear Lord. And you can't really escape us, so we're not worried about you not buying from us, but we want to build our data set about who you are so that we can target market you more accurately. And so the loyalty program that they've created is saying, if you identify yourself during purchase, if you pay with a card or you pay with your app, then you're going to earn points that level you up to get you stuff. It's totally straightforward, but it's very specific and clear. So just when you think of gamification, we didn't invent this word recently. We invented the word recently, we didn't invent the concept. And in the enterprise, forever and ever, this is what we do. We try to figure out ways to recognize and reward employees. We try to find ways to help them do better. I love this idea of leveling up in business. Why are you so excited when your boss tells you, you know what, I think that's right. You deserve the promotion. You really do. You've worked really hard, and you're moving to director level. Unfortunately, we've had some cutbacks and financial issues, and we can't really give you your bonus now. We're going to have to push that out 6 months. But you're just as excited as if you had gotten the bonus when they tell you you're a director. Nothing has changed. You've been doing that work anyway. But it's this feeling that you've been given this accolade, this sense of recognition for your contribution. Conversely, if someone said to you, Rob, what's your role? You're a director, okay. So you came into work and Rob, they said to you, Rob, you're awesome, you're doing a great job. We're just gonna take that director part off. You're gonna do the same thing, but get the white out. Yeah, no, it doesn't feel so good. You feel insulted. They didn't really do anything. They took a word away. Yeah. So we all understand levels. We're all part of that on a daily basis. Leaderboards, employee of the month. I know a lot of sales leaders who have spreadsheets in their back office or whiteboards, leaderboards, who's the top salesperson. And then badges, really, again, just a very clear visual indicator of the progress you're making toward milestones and your sense of achievement, something that you can show. Yeah, President's Club, 3 years in a row. Look at that. It's not true. Motivation versus gamification, or via gamification, because they are the same thing. So if you think about all the things we talked about earlier on, autonomy, relatedness, mastery, they can all jump into 3 buckets: performance, achievement, and social interaction. Those are 3 things that game designers are really good at doing, is getting people to see real-time feedback based on their activity. I never wonder what my score is, or what my level is, or where I need to go next. Transparency and goal setting, a clear path to follow, understanding my point of reference. Achievement, badges, leveling up, onboarding and mastery, taking people, no one reads the manual to play Angry Birds or Farmville. Hold on, I'm actually gonna go through compliance training to learn how to. No, you learn by doing. And then social interaction. There's the ability to really foster a deep level of engagement and motivation and connection because you're accountable to something larger than yourself. Maybe the company, there's 5,000 people in Christine's company just at their location. So how do I feel a sense of connectedness with 5,000 people? Let's break it down. Let's figure out how I can collaborate and compete and interact with the people around me on a level that makes sense to me. Much more motivating. So, adoption, ongoing utilization. How many of you are using IBM Connections? Anybody in here use that product? Okay, so I'm just curious, just because it's a social collaboration software tool, and I'm going to go through a couple of use cases here, some customer examples, some stuff out there in the wild. It may not map exactly to what you're doing, but I think the concepts you'll find are pretty common across the board. We're going to focus here on increasing adoption. So, piece of software, there's a lot of stuff for people to do. One day, the operations team rolls out a new piece of technology. It's IBM Connections. It allows me to connect with people. It allows me to create a new profile, different from the profile in the LMS and different from the profile in the internet. So now I have a 3rd profile, and I need to upload my photo, and I need to follow a colleague. I need to join a group. I need to do all these things so that I can actually start to get some benefit out of this tool. And it's really in the best interest of the company for people to adopt it, because otherwise it's not doing anything, especially social collaboration, right? It doesn't do anything unless people are using it. So IBM identified 27 key activities that they needed people to do in order to be successful in using this tool. And so you can see, pointing at the wrong screen, you can see level 1, I have to do these things. I have to upload a profile photo, follow a colleague, and join a group. Once I do those things, they found onboarding increased significantly, so they created a leveling structure. In order to get to level 2, I had to go through those things. Level 2, again, the next steps, the next lowest barrier to entry activities. And people are just guided along this process of doing more until they have a sense of ownership, they understand the value, and they're interacting with their peers within this environment. So what does this look like? Here we are. I'm Roy Booth, and here I am on my main page in Connections. On the left-hand side, you can see my profile photo has not been filled out yet. There's some information about me, and there is like a toolbar, a persistent toolbar underneath me. And there's information there. It shows me what level I'm at, and then my progress toward reaching the next level. Underneath that is the next activity I have to complete in order to move forward to reach that next level. So really clear. I go to my profile, I know exactly what I need to do next. And so if I click Learn More on that, I keep pointing at the prompter. If I click Learn More on the first mission, I can see exactly what I have to do. It describes for me that I need to upload a profile photo first and foremost before I can do anything else. I also noticed that there are other people down there who have recently done this thing. So someone else earlier, a speaker mentioned, people are able to interact and reach out across the organization for peer mentorship and help. So here are people that have just done this thing. If I have any questions about it, I may see someone there I know and I can ask them. Uploading a profile photo, hopefully you can do that on your own. So I click in and I upload my profile photo, and it tells me in the lower right-hand corner there, you can see a tiny little notification that says, congratulations, you just uploaded your profile photo and satisfied the first step in your challenge. So close loop, I did something and I have immediate positive feedback and I'm moving forward. And I can see that in my little progress bar there, it's moved up to 33%. So I have 3 things I need to do to get to level 2. I'm 33% of the way there. Voila, no questions, here I go. Back on the main page, same deal. Really clear. On the right-hand side, there's a leaderboard of other people who are really successful in this program. So I'm always reminded that other people are doing real well. So all of those things we just talked about, transparency, real-time feedback, progress, they're all inherent in this really step-by-step leveling up process. So you've gotten people to onboard and adopt. You've given them a clear path to figure out what all of the different pieces of the puzzle are. How do you get them to use it on an ongoing basis? I'll use a different example here. This is Salesforce. Anybody using Salesforce for CRM here? Sales? Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with Salesforce, in the cloud, customer relationship management, sales tools. And so a sales rep, I mentioned before the backroom sales leaderboard on the whiteboard or in a spreadsheet somewhere. What this does is it takes all of the real-time response, all of the incentive and motivation out of an analog world and puts it into a digital format. So here we are in the main page of Salesforce, and on the left-hand side you can see again a persistent panel that shows me all these things about me. Who am I? In this case, I'm Robert Mullaney. I know. I have this many points. I'm at a certain level. Here's my progress to my next level. Here's how close I am to my quota. And then there are really clear calls to actions for things that I can do next. So fill the funnel. Here's my manager has a goal for the team, and so he can place front and center what it is that he wants me to do next. I'm also not just me. I'm part of a team. I'm part of the Midwest team. So while I'm working toward my own personal objectives that are probably very closely tied to my quota and other personal MBOs, I'm also working as part of a team, and now I have this sense of obligation to help them out and to do better because they're counting on me. In the center here, you can see the blog, which is a vehicle for communication with the team. And so this idea that you have a very clear central place for transparency where the manager can communicate with the team. And then on my profile page, much more information about me. So a list of all the things that I need to do next. So whereas in the previous example, everything was gated, you had to do things in a certain order because you were learning something, we've now moved beyond that, and we have a laundry list of things to do and a more wide variety of tools to do them with. So here, if I fill the funnel, I get this badge and this point award. If I insert 25 leads this quarter, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever my objectives are, I can be working toward a clear path to achieve them. It's not just reach my quota, it's how does that break down quarter over quarter. And yes, on the right-hand side, you have a list of all the things that I have done, my chatter posts. You can see that as I'm completing tasks and getting things done, the badges color in. So it's not only do I have to think about, well, this is where I am, this is what I've done. At a glance, visually, I can see what I've accomplished and what I have to get done next. It's almost like a more compelling version of a checklist with progress toward completion. And then this idea that at big milestones of achievement, you're given these real-time notifications. So this here would be a pop-up as I reach quota to let me know, hey, guess what? You're amazing. You just hit 150% of quota, with a call to action to do something next. And those notifications are also an opportunity to send a message. So one of the things that struck me earlier was that we keep talking about the desire to foster communication and to have the right conversations. And in a world where we're increasingly challenged with back-to-back meetings and too few resources, I'm a manager. I'm struggling today. I had to reschedule all my one-on-ones with my employees. And do you reschedule? Do you just push them out till next week? How do you keep that conversation going? How do you make sure you're saying the right thing at the right time? What if there were tools that I could put in place that would automate some of the conversation and remind the employee that I'm thinking about them even when I can't be there? And so this idea of a notification, a message that could support a little video. You know there are key things you really want your employees to do. I'm going to identify 5 of them. I'm going to create a quick little video clip that says, awesome job, way to go, insert my message here, let's celebrate the next time we see each other, whatever that might be. Another one of the questions we often get is, well, I don't have money, I don't have a budget to gamify. And you really don't need one if you tie a lot of the incentive and reward into things that are already happening or into things that employees really care about. The word recognition, the word acknowledgement, those all are very, very valuable. I'm sure you've seen it on your own teams. It doesn't need to be a monetary exchange, but just recognition. And then the idea that we could have leaderboards showing the top point earners. In this case, it's sales driven, so they're a very competitive group. This might be a more collaborative leaderboard where you're showing the top 10 employees who have done something altruistic. So every organization is different. Being able to break down the types of competition by team. Maybe it's not everybody in the company all time. Maybe it's people like me this week. And then team versus team competition as well is a very strong motivator. And then when we talk about points, what do they mean? I talked a little bit about recognition. What about a high five from the CEO? What about you're already giving away probably a weekend in Napa or another big thing to an employee who's really blown out their quota. Make it formal and put it in a system that allows other people to be able to see it. There's a company who also gives their employees special access to events. So they have these events already, and they're now taking the front row of these really important keynotes, and they're allowing these select employees who have reached a certain milestone to get that select front row seating because they get acknowledged in front of the whole company that they've worked so hard and they've done such a good job. So it doesn't need to cost a lot. We'll talk a little bit about that in another minute. So adoption is one thing, ongoing utilization is another. I just want to touch on a couple of other in our remaining time, a couple of other examples that talk to onboarding, and then event-oriented opportunities, and social. So those will be our last 3, and some data points, ROI cases around that. So employees get about 90 days to prove themselves at a new job, and if you don't onboard them quickly, then you're in trouble because half of all senior outside hires fail within 18 months. Hourly workers leave within the first 120 days, half of them, and it's costing a lot of money. But employers with effective onboarding programs can improve productivity, retention, and customer satisfaction. So in the context of gamification, I didn't have a really good onboarding example that was in the enterprise, but I did have a software example, which is Photoshop. Have you guys ever used Photoshop? Anyone? And I don't know about you guys, but I found myself using it not because I'm a professional photographer, but because I had to get something done. And so when I open it up, I've got this big blank white thing, and over the years I figured out how to use it more and more effectively. But gee, wouldn't it have been nice if when I downloaded the trial, there was a step-by-step tutorial that helped me on board? What Adobe realized was that they have a lot of novice users, like myself, who come in to use this tool out of necessity, or they've just bought a new camera, and this is a piece of software that's available for them to use with the camera. So they wanted to increase the number of conversions from trial to purchase. And so what they did is they gamified the experience. I come in, and now it's not a white screen. There's a Level Up for Photoshop application that launches immediately, and it takes me through all of the first things I should do. Very, very similar to that Level Up for IBM Connections product, where I'm taken through missions that I need to accomplish to help me use all of the tools at my disposal. It's also a great way for me to connect into social. So as I continue to achieve, I can share those achievements with my social network. So first time login, here I am, I've earned some points. In this case, points just keep track of my progress, and they enter me into a sweepstakes for a chance to win a free version of the software. So here I use the teeth whitening tool. I say yes, did a good job, and I've completed a mission, and I've unlocked an award. So another sharing opportunity. All of these are shareable, as I mentioned, and then they can roll up to the main page and where there's a leaderboard to show all the people who are succeeding in this onboarding product. So Adobe's happy. They've seen a lot of conversion. They've increased their conversion rates from trial to purchase. Great. I have a very short amount of time left, so I'm going to fly through these next two examples just so you guys can have some meat to take with you that's in the learning and certification space. LiveOps and Ford. LiveOps is a call center community, and so they have agents who are not employees, but they're contractors, and so they can't mandate certification and training. All they can do is say, gee, you'll be better at your job if you do. And so they needed to figure out a way to create a community. They realized these agents were very social, and they were very interactive. They were using AIM on the side independently, and so they said, what if we can use that grassroots social activity, funnel it into LiveOps, my work community, and then gamify it to create a situation where they were taking their certifications, not because they had to, but because they were earning points for doing so and being recognized for doing so. They could mentor each other, not because they had to, but because it was really easy now, someone else mentioned this earlier, to see the other people in the organization who had the certifications on the products that they needed to get certified on. And so there was a natural, organic mentoring program that grew out of this. They saw an 87% time reduction in onboarding time, increase in completion of optional certifications, 75% returned on a biweekly basis. So these are agents who never had to log in unless they wanted to, returning biweekly. Decrease in average time to handle customer inquiries. So if you're a customer support agent, you're turning calls faster. Increase in sales performance and customer satisfaction. That was the most interesting part to me, was that there were all these benefits they got on the speed and the call times and things like this, but at the end, the people who were on the other end of the phone were happier. I don't know. Learning and certification at Ford Canada. So Ford has dealerships across the country. How do you make sure that all these dealerships are going through their training and their certification? Very decentralized model. So they created a gamified scenario. Every year they have these trainings, and they gamified it this year. They have a professional performance program, and they certified their employees faster than they ever had before. In January, they certified more of them. And what's interesting is oftentimes people will ask, how do you sustain this? How do you make sure that over time you're going to continue to see the up and to the right that you want to see from a program like this? They definitely are. So each month, January, February, March, they continued to see more and more and more adoption and usage and successful certification. And there's a little anecdote here. I've been with Ford for 13 years. I found so much more information with this idea of playing exposed him to more than he'd ever seen before. This is the event I talked about. So Microsoft has an event, a marketing event, and they've gamified it so that when people get to the event, they've actually completed all the courses, they've read all the pre-event documentation, so that everyone comes to the event with the same basis of learning. I thought that's one thing we're hearing a lot more is, I'm not sure if I want to gamify my intranet, or if I'm not sure if I want to gamify my LMS, but I have this event coming up, and how do I make sure that people are showing up educated? How do I actually get people to check in while they're there? How do I leverage social media at my event, tie it all together so that it becomes a part of a holistic incentive and reward program, and that there's some kind of outcome after the event that gets them to take the survey or whatever it is that I'm trying to get them to do. So before, during, and after the event, make that a holistic, gamified experience. And then just some more stats that I thought might be helpful as you guys continue to think about gamification in your organization. THWAC is a SolarWinds support community, and they were trying to get people to actually answer questions, so kind of a Quora model. 50% increase in discussion posts, 25% increase in content downloads. So not only were people contributing more, the other people in the community were finding what they were contributing helpful, and then they were actually answering the questions that were being asked, and there was an increase in that dialogue that they were trying to foster as well. And then the last piece, going social, we'll sneak this in here before the end. So Blue Wolf is a 350-person consultancy. They deploy Salesforce and provide consulting services for companies who want to use Salesforce. And so they're using a lot of those tools internally themselves, and they realized that they weren't a very social organization. While they considered themselves social in some ways, they weren't really living the mantra. And so they used gamification to create a scenario where each individual was rewarded for their social activity. So they connected everyone's internal lives to their external social networks, and they rewarded them for Chatter, which is a social tool Salesforce provides internally, so the internal conversation, and then sharing that internal conversation with the world. So I would be rewarded for posting to Chatter internally and then getting a response. If that response was helpful, then posting that to my Facebook page. So really creating a situation where my work and my life were blurred, in the hopes of increasing their social presence, the company's social presence on the internet. And they have a model that works nicely with. I know a lot of people in HR don't have that luxury. But I thought it was interesting because what they were doing is and this goes to a comment someone made earlier about really understanding the reality on the ground and understanding what people care about and what they're dealing with and what they're doing. Why do points matter? Why would I connect my Facebook account to my personal account, to my work account? And why would I work when not at work? Why would I do that? But for them, they had almost a campaign around the whole thing, and that was what made it successful. Is they said, okay, well, we're working toward these things. Every year we go to Dreamforce, and we all love going to Dreamforce, and everyone covets the ability to have special access at Dreamforce. So why don't we use that as leverage? A full conference pass is one of the rewards. Lunch with the CEO was another one. You have an audience with the CEO. You get an upgrade on your flight out to Dreamforce. So all these things were the carrots that weren't just stuff. They were things that really resonated with the employees, and were reasons why they would work harder, would invest more, would take it personally, and ensure their success using this program. So I think the benefits to Blue Wolf was exactly that. They had an increase in social sharing. They had increase in blog traffic coming to their blog from social media by 80%. They actually had their company clout score increase, and then their internal Chatter activity increased as well. So all of these examples are from a wide variety of different industries, organizations using different platforms. But they're all realizing that the things that are going to motivate and drive employee behavior are, number one, identifying what it is people need to do, giving them a reason to do those things. That reason needs to be partially that it's of benefit to them, it's of benefit to the organization, there's a relationship there, and that it ties into something that the employee cares about deeply. And the one thing that we all care about deeply is our emotional reaction to things. So going back to that, autonomy, mastery, purpose, relatedness, progress, those things you don't have to convince someone of. Those provide an immediate benefit viscerally that we all relate to. So as you go back after this week together, think about easy ways that those fundamental principles can become integrated into your daily, not only processes and interactions, but where are there opportunities to be more direct with your real-time feedback? Where are there opportunities to tie in motivation, real-time feedback, incentive and reward in your daily work?